So this is Kenny the Jet Smith walks off the inside the NBA set in support of NBA players.
This is a landmark day in the history of American sport. NBA teams refusing to play their scheduled games in protest of racial injustice in this country. Their boycott in Orlando, a direct result of a shooting which took place in Kenosha, Wisconsin, 40 miles from Milwaukee, where on Sunday, 29-year-old Jacob Blake was shot 7 times in the back. Players and coaches have been vocal in voicing their out.
Let me say this before we get to the Kenny the Smith thing. This is a big shift in athletics, or really just anything to do with like individual players or actors or whatever. But I would say within the last 5 years, there's been a real obvious shift where players feel like they are responsible for their reactions to social situations or whatever's happening on Earth. Before, 5 years ago, it was not even a question. You just played the game. You played the game, and that was it. And you went from there. So I think it's really interesting to see that now it's different. Now that's not the case. Now players are very aware and very quick to bring off-court issues onto the court. And that's something that did not happen at all. Even the Colin Kaepernick stuff, I think it was 4 years ago. When that started happening, even like Tim Tebow around the same time, people did not expect or did not like having off-court issues brought onto the court. And now these players are reacting to things within the same day and doing that on the court or taking a stance. It's an interesting shift, and I think the players realize how much power they have, how much power they yield, and their platform.
Outrage and disgust, and today made a resounding and unified statement by refusing to take the court. We welcome you to this special edition of Inside the NBA. Ernie Johnson and Shaquille O'Neal, Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley. Wow, with every passing day. And I know you just were on CNN with Wolf. I was on there at 5 o'clock with him, and we were talking about this. And I was saying there are these moments that have happened in my 30 years in this chair. I remember Magic and his announcement about HIV, 91. Remember Adam Silver in 2014 addressing the Donald Sterling situation with the Clippers and saying,
I think EJ, by the way, I think he might be the best sports media person in the world. Like what he does in his job, how he handles every situation, talent levels, entertainment value, professionalism. I think he might be the best guy we've got. He's unbelievable, and it's easy to fall in the shadows of Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith and Shaquille O'Neal, or Chris Webber when he was on the show. But I think EJ is very underrated for what he does. He's one of my favorites.
That I am banning him for life, and how impactful that was at that moment. And then today, no podium involved, simply we're not going to take the floor. So, Kenny, Shaq, Chuck, as we wait for the Bucks to make a statement, which should happen any time now.
Well, I don't think we could be shocked. I think when some of the guys started talking about it the day before, that started the fire. And then the Milwaukee Bucks, who happened to lead off today, because if the Bucks hadn't canceled, I don't think anybody else would have canceled. And they should have told the Orlando Magic, too. That's the only part I don't like about what they did.
That is an interesting part, is that the Magic had no idea. The Magic showed up to play the game, and that's when the Magic found out that the Bucks had canceled. So it makes the Magic look weird because, one, it makes the Magic look like they weren't on the same page, and they had to get dressed, they had to go shoot around. I do agree with that the Bucks or someone could have let the Magic know.
Because the Magic were warming up, getting ready for the game. They should have gave them a heads up. but I think it's appropriate that the Milwaukee Bucks did it because it happened in their home state.
40 miles from.
40 miles from there. And then I think you had to cancel the games tonight after the Bucks did not play. Now I think you got a couple questions. You probably got to cancel the games tomorrow also to let those are different set of teams. You got to let these guys know you're standing with them. So you probably got to cancel the games tomorrow. My question is, what is the game plan after that?
My buddy Brian Anderson, by the way, fellow TNT broadcaster, but also does Milwaukee Brewers baseball, notified me too. The Milwaukee Brewers canceled their game with the Cincinnati Reds tonight. So that situation in Milwaukee, again, 40 miles from Kenosha. Kenny?
This is tough. I mean, right now my head is like ready to explode, like just in the thoughts of what's going on. And I don't know if I'm even appropriate enough to say it, what the players are feeling and how they're feeling. And I haven't talked to any of the players. I'm just like coming in, even like driving here and getting into the studio, hearing calls and people talking. And for me, I think the biggest thing now is to kind of, as a black man, as a former player, I think it's best for me to support the players and just not be here tonight. And figure out what happens after that. Yeah, I just don't feel equipped to do that.
And I respect that. Shaquille.
The fact that
It's an interesting spot to put Chuck and Shaquille O'Neal in. I mean, now, I don't know what they talked about before that, but if that's the case, if you're Chuck and Shaquille O'Neal, the first thing you're thinking is, do I have to walk off the set? But then, like, imagine if Chuck and Shaquille just say, okay, well, I guess we have to walk off the set, and then it's just Ernie sitting there. You know, like, what do they do? And does that make Ernie look bad? If all of them walk off the set and leave Ernie, the one white guy, like, is that a different message? Or could that be perceived as a different message? I don't know. And you never know what they talk about beforehand. You know, he may have told these three, like, hey, I'm going to do this. And they may have said, okay, no problem. And maybe that's why Shaq and Chuck didn't walk off, is so that this was a decision by Kenny Smith, and it's his decision instead of all of them, instead of all of them leaving.
Everybody was unified in their decision. I respect that. Because if everybody wasn't unified, we'd be talking about something not important rather than the issues at hand. I respect the guys. I respect their wishes. I respect everybody's thought and processes on how they deal with certain things. African Americans are fed up. People that care are fed up, and something has to change. But I'm with Charles. What is the next step? Do you say, okay, I'm going to boycott the season? Because right now.
All right, let me talk about this. So, okay. Here's my thoughts on this. I'm not totally sure what they're boycotting. And I'm not even sure if they know what they're boycotting. This is what I think happened. I think the players have obviously been very socially aware this entire bubble. I mean, we have Black Lives Matter on the court. They're wearing social issues on the back of their jerseys. And, they're wearing Breonna Taylor hats and, BLM shirts. Obviously, they're very tuned in to activism. LeBron James has been reading, or not reading, however you want to say it, the Malcolm X biography. So they're very, very locked into that. And what I think happened was, I think these players who are together 24/7 now because they're quarantined, I think these players all kind of agree that if something happens, if another George Floyd situation or another Breonna Taylor situation happens, that they would make a stand and they would use their platform. And then this happens with Jacob Blake. And instead of waiting, instead of seeing what's going on, instead of, letting the investigation play out, they immediately jumped in order to not let it go by. Now, here's my problem with that. Is that what actually are they boycotting? We don't even know what happened with Jacob Blake. We have absolutely no idea what happened. All we know is the 2 20-second clips that we saw of the actual shooting. We know that, but we know his priors. We know that there was a warrant for his arrest. We know that he was set to serve 8.5 years in prison, or potentially could have if the charges. We know he had some resisting arrest issues previously. We know that there was a knife in the vehicle, and we know that that's it. We don't know who was in the wrong. We don't know who was in the right. So for these players to immediately jump to, we're boycotting until something is done, what does that even mean? What does that mean? What are they telling us? Are they saying, what do they want done? Do they want the officers arrested? The officers may not have done anything wrong. That's the whole point of the investigation. I mean, imagine if when Casey Anthony was arrested, imagine if some group says, we're boycotting. We're boycotting until something is done. And it's like, well, guys, we have a system. Like, this is the United States. We have a system. You have to let the investigation play out. You have to let the system go its course. You can't just immediately jump to, this was a racial killing. You can't immediately jump to, this is injustice. We want justice for Jacob Blake. It might not have been an injustice. What happens then? What happens if it's just a situation where a couple cops went to serve a warrant or whatever? They went to get this guy. They knew that he had priors. They knew that all of that happened. All of that was in play. What if it just turns out that this was a bad situation and the police had to use force? What happens then? Then everyone looks pretty stupid for wearing Jacob Blake shirts. The WNBA had shirts with 7 holes in their back. The players are basically holding the NBA hostage and saying that we're not doing something until something's done. What is that something is done? What is that something? All we need to know is that a black man got shot 7 times in his back. The police lack proper training and are consistently in the wrong in many different scenarios. See, I think that's 2 separate things. All we know is from that video, all right? And shooting him in his back, like, that is the ultimate buzzword from the media, is unarmed African-American gets shot 7 times in his back in front of his kids. That is very, very different than what we saw in those videos. Let's just say that he was reaching for his knife. We know he was reaching in the car. We know there was a knife in the vehicle. We don't know why. Let's just hypothetically say. Let's say that he was reaching for his knife. Should the police have to wait for him to turn around and attack them or brandish the knife? I think the police at that point, he's obviously not complying. He's walking around the car. He's obviously not complying with the cops. He has priors for resisting arrest. The cops know that. They have a warrant for his arrest. They know his background. So you have a guy with priors of violence and violence against police who is set to serve or to get arrested. He is in his neighborhood. He is in his car or around his car, and he's reaching into his car. That sounds like a situation where force could be used. And I don't think that shooting him 7 times in the chest or shooting him in the back or shooting him whatever, I don't think that matters. What matters is that this could be a situation of just a day in the life of police. This happens. Police have to use lethal force all the time. The irresponsible thing to do, in my opinion, is to take all of the cases. We don't even know the investigation from George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. We don't even know what happened with those. Those investigations are still ongoing. Those aren't even resolved. Those aren't even resolved. So I think it's irresponsible to immediately say, like how LeBron said, we're tired of this shit happening. We don't even know what this shit is yet. We don't even know. What happens is, the sad part is, what happens is, this is already a racial hate case, right? But it might not be. I'm forgetting the guy's name now, but there was a case a couple months ago, or maybe even longer. Time is melding together. There was a case where police shot a man to death, and the man had grabbed a taser and tased 2 cops before he was shot. And when it first happened, people immediately jumped to white versus black, immediately jumped to hate crime, and then it comes out that he grabbed a taser and tased 2 cops. But no one cares about that because it's already been that. It's already been the hate crime. This specific situation aside, it's the whole movement and consistently seeing it happen. But that's what I'm saying. Are they going to do this every single time? This reaction isn't to the specific situation with Jacob Blake. This is due to the consistent cases over time and the clear differences between how white and black people are treated by police. That's an interesting comment. Because they agreed to play in this bubble after George Floyd. They agreed to play in this bubble after Breonna Taylor. So if this was about that, why did they agree to play in this bubble? And if that's the case, then every single time there's a police shooting, are we going to see a boycott? And that goes back to my original question. What do they want done? If what they want done is police reform, police training, I totally agree with that. I totally agree that the police should be trained. I've said many times that the police should be trained differently. They should be handled differently. I've said that a million times, that the police should be treated like the military. But if that's the case, why are they in the bubble? This was the first big case since they entered the bubble, but we just said that has nothing to do with this specific situation. It's due to the consistent cases. So with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, why are they now? Why did they say, okay, we'll play, and then this happens, and now they're back? Now, according to this, they're backtracking on the consistent cases. They cannot, players, whoever, it's not even just the players, because it's their job. They want to make money to help solve these. Because it's their job, they want to make money to help solve these problems. So you think LeBron James agreed? So you think LeBron James is the bubble, the money he's going to make from inside the bubble? He's only playing in the bubble to make money to solve these social problems? That doesn't sound right at all. I would guess that the players in the bubble probably aren't concerned about the money they're making in the bubble to solve these problems. I think if they wanted to boycott because of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, they would have. Now, here's another situation. Here's another question. Another question is, what else can the NBA do for the players? Again, what do the players want? What are they actually advocating for? Because the NBA has given them Black Lives Matter on the court. They've given them the social issues on the jerseys. They've allowed the players to completely speak up. They've allowed the players the entire platform. They have given the players the NBA. They've given them the NBA. And they've sacrificed whatever they've sacrificed. They've worked whatever they've worked to even make this bubble a reality so that the players could finish the season and have this platform. And then right now, in a situation where the players don't even know what happened, we don't even know what happened. This could be just a routine, or not a routine, I guess, but this could just be a sad situation that happens in police work where you have a guy resisting arrest and lethal force was used. Now, is this a situation where routine? Well, I'm guessing that police use lethal force a lot. I don't know. I'm not a cop. But I would guess this situation happens a lot in the line of police work if you're looking on a national level. So what I'm saying is these players every single time this happens, I don't understand why they're holding the NBA accountable and telling the NBA, we're not playing. You see MLS players. MLS players are telling the MLS, what are you going to do? So what do you think they want them to do? What do you think the players want the NBA to do? I don't know. I think, honestly, I think the problem with a lot of this is the media and politicians immediately making this a hate crime and immediately making this a racial injustice. I think that's very irresponsible, to be honest. And I think that's why you see things like the riots in Kenosha, is because people hear immediately that this is a hate crime and that there should be justice. But the justice comes in the system. If we believe in that, we still have to go through the system. We can't become vigilantes and militia members and all of a sudden hold all these the NBA and whatever accountable. I totally understand players saying, hey, we need police reform. Hey, we need the economic gap closed. We need that to happen. I totally get that. But I don't think that within the first 12 hours of this case, they should make Jacob Blake a martyr and these police racial murderers. What's not changing is people out here in the world who refuse to admit the obvious. Instead, we are here talking about how Jacob Blake's specific case was handled correctly, which shouldn't be the focus coming out of this. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying that George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, this has already happened. We've already had the protest in Seattle and Minnesota. Like, if that's the case, if the case is we have to change all this stuff, this systematic problem, this whatever, then how do the players go from that situation and then agreeing to play in the bubble to this happening? Like, why is this spurring this boycott and all this other stuff? Because we can all agree we don't even know what this is. So we can't even say this is a big case or this is a situation of systemic racism. We don't even know. We have no clue. No clue. It's making noise. Boycotting these games is drawing lots of eyes to what is happening. Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but I'm saying they could have done that. I'm reading this like backwards in time, but do y'all understand what I'm saying about the whole boycott thing? I understand that it's drawing lots of eyes to what is happening, but what is happening has been happening for 3 months. So it's weird to me to be like, what is happening happens, and then they decide, all right, let's play in the bubble, and then something happens, and then they boycott. But I mean, the system is just like Burley streams fucked. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. If the system is the problem, which, okay, I can totally get behind that. I'm sure we've said that on the podcast. If the system is, I keep hitting my mic. If the system is the issue, then it has nothing to do with this Jacob Blake case. So why are people wearing Jacob Blake shirts with 7 bullet holes in their T-shirts? That seems like they're making it about the Jacob Blake case, doesn't it? To a lot of people, the system that is in place is not accomplishing what needs to be accomplished. So the only thing they feel they can do is to protest to try and bring change. And that's where I think the riots come in. That's where I think we're seeing the militia. That's where I think we're seeing vigilantes, is because people are now, for some reason, taught to believe that the government and the system and what we have in place do not work, and thus they have to take it in their own hands. Do you think that's the America we need, where people jump to whatever conclusions they want and they handle justice in their own streets? I don't think so. Again, I'll take the Casey Anthony case or the O.J. Simpson case. Both of those cases, you could argue the system failed. So do I think we should have vigilantes and militia members bypassing the court system to dole out their own justice or demanding justice or whatever? No, I don't think so. I don't think we can bypass the systems in place, even if the systems in place are perceived to be incorrect. It becomes, how do we fix the system? It doesn't become, how do we dole out justice? I get that they are treating James Blake or Jacob Blake like the new Supreme drop before they know anything. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the police are in the right. I'm not saying that the I'm not saying that Jacob Blake's in the wrong. I'm saying that before you, I feel like honestly, I feel like the players are trying to get out in front of the next George Floyd or the next Breonna Taylor, which, like I said, the investigation is still ongoing. So they're just getting ahead of this, and they're already making these like Jacob Blake shirts and memorials and like I can't remember which player I heard now. I'm trying to think who it was. I think it was a TV show where they were like, it was The Rock. It was The Rock. The Rock delayed his Under Armour merchandise drop because out of respect for Jacob Blake. And that's what I'm talking about. They're making this out of respect to Jacob Blake. It should be out of respect, according to y'all, it should be because of the system. Saying that we're delaying, or saying we're boycotting the NBA games out of respect for Jacob Blake, we don't know shit about the Jacob Blake situation. That's the irresponsible part. They're already jumping to a conclusion that Jacob Blake was viciously murdered for no reason. And flat out, that might not be the case. I don't know. We don't know. It's so irresponsible for politicians, athletes, sporting leagues, whatever, to come out and say, this is a hate crime. This is racial injustice. It might not be. Could it be bad policing? Sure. Could it be good policing of a guy just resisting arrest and they had no choice? It could be. We don't even know what the domestic dispute was that caused the cops to go there. We don't know. We don't know. And so you got all these people now jumping. Like the rioters in Kenosha. What are they rioting for? Because they've jumped to this conclusion that it's a racial hate crime? And they want justice? Justice for what? Justice for what? A case or a shooting that we don't have any details about? Any. That's what I'm saying. And then, like I said, when people are lumping all of this in, and all of a sudden it's like, this has to stop happening. What is this? What is this has to stop happening? We don't know. We don't even know what this is. That's what the internet has done to us. Yes, the internet has created this 24/7 news cycle and this immediate jump to a conclusion. Immediately plant your flag on one side or the other. And that is so dangerous. If Jacob turns out to be a fraud, then he'll just disappear. And that's another part of the problem. It shouldn't have anything to do with if Jacob Blake is in the right or in the wrong. What it should be is we should take this situation and use it as a scope to look at, is what the police are trying to do, is the situation working? Here's what the investigation should be. Step one, let's take the shooting. Was the shooting justified, or was it in the wrong? And then you handle the cops. You either arrest the cops or you don't. Then you move to, okay, this is what happened. This is what the investigation shows what happened. Is our current police training good enough to deal with this situation? And then you move from there. You know what you don't do? Immediately demand justice and retribution and burn down cities. If they canceled because of the injustices on Black lives, then it would work better, but we really don't know the facts. Yes. It's just recency bias, which can be scary. 100%. 100%. If they came out, if the players come out and they say, we're not playing because of it's even hard to say that because we still don't know. Like, what are they talking about? I mean, like we've said in chat, this kind of stuff has been happening for 50 plus years. So if they say we want justice for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Jacob Blake, it's like, so are you saying that you're not going to play until the investigations are over? Because we don't even know what justice. What is justice? Like, what do y'all want? What do y'all want us to do? What do y'all want America to do? What do you want the league to do? What do you want? We want to bring eyes to it. I think we're doing that with Black Lives Matter on the court, with social injustice issues on our jerseys, talking about it, the BLM on shirts. I think we're bringing some eyes to it. So if the idea is we're just bringing eyes to it, it's like, I think they went to the bubble thinking it's going to give a platform to help bring change, which it certainly has. And I think they overreacted right away to Jacob Blake's specific case. Yes, 100%. But can you blame them? I can't blame them because of how the media has set us all up. I can't blame them. I would hope that they do better. I would hope that they listen to my podcast. I would hope that they think about some critical thinking. I would hope that they're smart enough to do it like we're talking about doing it. I would hope that they are smart enough to understand the steps of the process. On video, a black man was shot in the back 7 times while not doing anything but walking to his car. No, that's not true. That is not true. On video, a black man with a warrant for his arrest, with previous encounters with the police of resisting, with a history of violence, was shot in the back 7 times while resisting arrest and walking to his car, disobeying police orders, and reaching into his car, which we know had a weapon in it. That should be what that sentence says. Because that is all the facts we know. We have to put ourselves in African American shoes here and see how they have to feel after doing everything in their power to bring change. I'm with you there. But like I said, what we know about this situation is not it's just hard for me to say, if you look at all of what we know about this situation, it's hard to be like, I'm fed up. It's like, well, I mean, we just don't know. We just don't know. I mean, now there was a second video of him wrestling with cops. I mean, there's different angles. There's body cam audio coming out. We have to wait. We have to wait. It was that simple. We've got to wait. You have to let the facts and the information come out before you stage a full-on boycott. It's not just Jacob Blake, man. I'm just reading a sentence that goes into, on video, a black man was shot in the back 7 times while not doing anything. If it's not about Jacob Blake, then we remove that sentence. If we take all the Jacob Blake stuff out of that sentence, it turns into, I think they overreacted right away to Jacob Blake's specific case without the facts. We have to put ourselves in African American shoes here and see how they have to feel after doing everything in their power to bring change, which I agree on. And if that's the case, they're doing what they should be doing with bringing eyes to the Black Lives Matter, the social injustice on their jerseys. Again, if it's not about Jacob Blake, why am I seeing Jacob Blake t-shirts and holes in their shirts? They're contradicting themselves. That's what I'm telling you. They are contradicting what you are saying. That's the point. They don't know what they're boycotting. That's the issue. The Rock, in his tweet, he says, I'm not releasing the Under Armour merch now in respect to Jacob Blake. So if it's not just about Jacob Blake, then you might need to go tell all those people that. Because the people boycotting right now with the biggest platforms, are making it about Jacob Blake. The facts were not out when they reacted. The facts still aren't out. We still don't know. You put that video, that is exactly my point. Before the rest of the news broke out about that situation, you simply see the video with no background, and you get why they are pissed. My whole point is that they should have the wherewithal and the critical thinking to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't make a completely impulsive decision without any of the background, without any of the facts. That is 100% my entire point. I think they could have done something before shooting 7 times, but what do you expect to happen when you're going to a car not listening? I don't think it has anything to do with racism. I feel like Jacob thought he was above the law with everything going on and just wanted to cause some more problems. We don't know. We don't know. Like that's just guessing, and we don't guess. We're not in the business of guessing. We're not in the business of trying to figure out what happened. We don't know. We flat out don't know. What I'm saying is we have to just take a step back and wait and see what the situation was. I mean, that's 100% my point. I feel like we're all agreeing on the same thing, but in weird different ways. We all agree that it was super impulsive to do the boycotts. It was super impulsive to do all this. It was super impulsive to make the Jacob Blake shirts. It was super impulsive to do all that. And they did it without any background or without any facts. We've all said that now. Every single person in chat has now said they reacted without the background and without the facts. Sounds like we all agree that they shouldn't make these radical, rash decisions without some background or without some facts. I agree. Again, you say you are trying to put yourself in their shoes and say you want them to react to these killings in a cold and cold. I'm not saying cold. I'm not saying cold. Definitely logical. They are emotional. Yeah. And why are they emotional? Because the media for 4 months is claiming that everything that's happened is racial hate killings when we don't know. So of course they're emotional. That's why I'm saying we're seeing riots. These riots are the reason for these riots is because people are at their breaking point. People are emotional as hell. And why are they emotional? Because since George Floyd in March, we've had nothing but these are racial killings, these are hate killings, these are injustice. This is injustice. This is injustice. So of course they're emotional. That's the whole point. That's what they want you to do. In a perfect world, they could all step back. But after what black people have lived through in this country, it's hard for me to be upset being wrong once. We don't even know if you mean wrong to being impulsive or whatever. Again, I'm not saying that these guys should be crucified for the boycott. I'm just saying that I think the boycott is a bit rash. That's it. That's the whole stance. Like the whole stance isn't yes about the Jacob Blake case. Well, we also don't know about the other cases. We don't even have a resolution for those. But that's my whole stance is like I'm not taking some hard line stance about if the police are right or if Jacob Blake's right or if the system's right. I'm just saying I think the boycott was rash. That's it. I mean, they can do whatever they want. They're grown men. I mean, LeBron James is older than I am. I don't blame anyone for being passionate. I don't blame anyone for being emotional. I'm just telling them the reason they are emotional. And I'm just outlining to everyone here why I think the boycott was rash. That's it. It could turn out that Jacob Blake was slaughtered in a racial hate crime. And if those facts come out, sure. Better to say something and be wrong than to not say it at all, I guess. Well, that's how you get vigilante militia members burning down cities. People are saying something in a lot of different ways. LeBron James and the NBA are saying something by boycotting, and people throwing Molotov cocktails through car dealerships in Kenosha are saying something a very different way. So, depends on how you look at that, I guess. To the players, I'm kind of on the fact-checking side. Yeah, that's all. And that's really the whole conversation. It's like I have sat here for however many months, and I've said I think the police should be held to a higher standard. I think the training, the checking of like their mental stability, their physical stability, all that stuff. I'm all for that. I'm all for restructuring this system in a positive, constructive way. I'm not for taking matters into your own hands as citizens of Kenosha because you believe that Jacob Blake or George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or whoever was killed in a racial hate crime, and you taking it into your own hands to say something and burning down your city. I don't blame NBA players for being emotional. I do blame the rioters and looters for making that an appropriate response to anything besides the government takeover. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame the players. I just think they are handling it pretty rash. That's all. I mean, if you're the NBA, you got to be sitting here thinking, like, what the hell do I do? If you're the NBA, you got to be thinking, what else do y'all want? Like, we're trying to give y'all the voice. We're trying to give y'all the spotlight and all this. And, traditional media is laughable. That's a different story, though. Trust me, I'm against the media tenfold. Yeah, I mean, as somebody who was the media, I'm way, way out on mass media. Way out on that.